Hello and welcome to Rose Ed, and with Hannah away at the bi-yearly mispronunciation and bodily fluid drinking symposium, we've got high hopes that today's show might be the first where we can actually use some of what we record. Let's just see how we go, shall we? It certainly has been an exciting week in the world of football as Liverpool and Man City march on to keep things tight at the top. Richarlison misunderstands when Everton fans asked for more flair, and Norwich go down easier than Ethel when Wayne Rooney offered her a lifetime supply of Werther's originals. Hello and welcome to Rose Ed. It's me, Joe Forrester, here with Mike, as always, and special guest, Charlie Hawkins. You all right, Charlie?
I'm good, Joe. Thank you for having me. What a lovely introduction and start to the show.
It's been a month or so since I've slammed Wayne Rooney, Mike. So I thought I'd bring it back.
Yeah, I was going to say Wayne Rooney. No one in his family, Wayne himself, and his old habits are not safe.
Old habits being the operative word, mate.
Yeah.
He's never safe. So Charlie, let's just get to know you a little bit, right? So I've got a couple of questions that I use to get to know people.
Okay.
What would you say your most used emoji is?
Definitely the laughing face. If anyone else has anything other than the laughing face, they're lying. 100%.
Yeah.
Who's
Classic.
the person in your WhatsApp who's the top of your messaged? Like, who's your, you get that top 5, who's the top?
Yeah. Frequently used. Not in that way. Definitely my girlfriend, or I'd say one of my best mates, John. Yeah, them two. It's like a title battle. It's close.
And what's the last GIF you used?
This is actually a sad story because I knew you was going to ask this. So I went back and checked. 3 weeks I had to go back and find it. And I used a GIF where I said to my girlfriend, come round after work, I'll make you dinner. She was like, lovely. Then on the day I said, we still on for later? She went, no, I'm just going to go home, babe. And then I used a GIF to say, and that's, I really appreciate you guys bringing that up. So sad moment revisited.
Oh, mate, sorry to bring back those bad memories of your failed dinner that never was.
Also, Mike, are we calling it a GIF or a GIF?
Yeah, I mean, look,
Why did I call it
anything.
a GIF?
I wasn't.
100% it's a GIF. 100%.
I mean, you know what? I mean, I'm not going to say this is like a Northallertonism because it very much isn't. Just to tell Charlie, so basically Hannah just mispronounces everything.
Okay.
She calls Primark Primark. She calls Michael Bublé Michael Bublé.
The Maldives,
and
not
this
the Maldives.
This is all blamed. She blames it on her being from a town in Yorkshire called Northallerton, but really we just think it's because she's a bit, a bit Hannah, basically. So
what are we saying is the correct way?
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, I've heard that the person who invented GIFs calls it a GIF, but I refuse to call it that, so I'm just going to say it my way.
It's pronounced GIF, apparently, according to Wikipedia.
Yeah,
not GIF.
It actually is.
Brilliant.
I'm over the moon with that.
So we've had the reverse of Hannah today. We've had someone who we think's mispronouncing it, but actually they're pronouncing it right. So we look like the mugs of it, Joe.
It's good to know that Hannah's here in spirit, even when she's not actually here. If you're wondering where Hannah is, by the way, she's doing a cycling show for ITV4.
In the Maldives.
In the Maldives, yeah. So it's her, Michael Bublé and David Guetta. The three hosts. It's an all-star lineup. Right, I've got a couple of shout-outs to do before we move on, by the way. Adam Howard has been in touch on social media. He said he's having a tough time at the moment, but he listens to the show, so keep your chin up, Adam, mate. Stick with it. Remember, you're a champion, yeah? And that's coming from Rose Ed. So there you go. That's one for Adam. And Caden, who messaged us on Instagram and says he listens with his dad. Sorry to Caden's dad. That's all I can say.
Sorry, Caden's dad.
You shouldn't let your kids listen to this, should you?
This is not an educational show at all.
Well, you learned how to say GIF, so that's something.
Well,
Mike, you've joined a gym right recently, so I'm interested in this. How's it going?
Yeah. You know what? I'm going to be so boring, but I have to say, so I've slightly bumped up my gym levels a little bit in terms of like I always used to stinge out and go to Pure Gym because it's cheap and cheerful. It's like where I'm from, it's like £15 a month. So you think 15 quid a month, like go do your stuff and then leave. But now I've upgraded to a proper gym, like a proper one.
What are we talking? We're talking in Nuffield, Fitness First.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's like a little private one, and it's got like the whole swimming pool and the sauna and jacuzzi and stuff. Like it is like a
normal gym facilities. Then,
well, Jacuzzi.
Door in a car park.
Yeah, it's got a shower. It's got a door. It's got an entrance. It even has a reception.
But how's it going?
Mate,
What's your routine?
Destroyed it.
Because I want to, like, next time we meet up for a studio show, I want you to be hench and ripped.
Yeah, no, mate. So honestly, because obviously, 2 Easters and stuff like that. The pounds have been piling on, so it's just literally to get rid of the beer belly essentially. So what I'm doing is I'm doing like my workout, and then at the end of my workout, I'm just doing like an incline on the treadmill. And it's not anything special, mate. It's not. I didn't say I'm like Joe Wicks or anything, but it actually works. Like the last few weeks, it's been going all right. So
is this new gym so like private and exclusive that you're not even going to mention its name because you keep saying the new gym? Is that me and Joe aren't even allowed to know? It's this discreet Joe.
Mate,
he can't even like bring 2 people in. No guest memberships here.
Exclusive, mate. Like it's invite only. Like
how did you get in?
Me up. Well, they saw Rose Ed, mate. Actually, like our Instagram is popping off. So they actually contacted me directly and said, "Yeah, this guy needs the gym."
I wouldn't put it past you to leverage our Instagram, Mike, to get free PT. That's got you written all over.
Oh, mate, absolutely.
Anyway, you had a good week, Mike.
Yeah, it's been all right. It was I've had more cat dramas. The cat went to the vet actually earlier today, and he absolutely hates it, absolutely despises it, and you can't really get him in the actual cradle. Cradle, was that the right word? Crate, crate even. It's not a baby. Cat basket. So yeah, he basically, like, when we put him in, we can get him in, but actually shutting the lid is a disaster because he puts his head in the way. And he's like, all right, well, you're either going to chop off my head or, I'm not going, essentially. So, and then he was actually so scared that when we brought him home, we took him out and there was a little like plop in the bottom of the crate because he was that scared. He just let out like a little release, which was, I felt bad for him, but he's a nightmare. He's an absolute nightmare. Like, he just doesn't treat the vets with any respect. Disrespectful man.
Well, my dog had diarrhea this week. And I had to clean her bum. So I'm not going to lie. Right, when my girlfriend hears this, she cleaned her bum and I held her tail up. So, like, she was very much down the business end. So if you're going to get any splashback, like, when a bus goes through a big puddle, like, she was very much at that end. Sorry, Charlie. Welcome to Rose Ed, mate.
Yeah, this is something.
Yeah, it's awful because I saw it happen in the park, and I was like, that's going to get matted, and you don't want that. So
is this because of what you're feeding it, Joe?
Yeah, that is quite bad, and I did because I got told off because I keep giving it stuff that dogs are allergic to, apparently.
Yeah, so I mean that might be.
But when I was drunk, I gave her some onion rings, and apparently they're allergic to onion. So I keep like feeding her. Like, we had a roast dinner, and I made her a plate of lamb. I was giving her jerk chicken the other day.
Yeah, I mean, probably avoid spice because that will end up.
Oh, it's awful though. Like, literally, she does like 2 or 3 poos on every walk. The other day she did 5. I ran out of poo bags, and I had to like kick it under a tree because I was like, I've brought enough bags. I'm a responsible owner, but there's too much poo. You had a good week, Charlie?
A lot better than you two by the sounds of things, yeah. I mean, I always take enough poo bags with me wherever I am. The local, just going for a walk, work. So never the same problem. But yeah, good week, especially on the sporting front as well. So.
Yeah, well, absolutely, because it's there's a feature that we do on this show regularly, which I know Mike's very fond of, where we kind of point out the things that we've really enjoyed this week. So it's time for things that make you go, oh, God, yeah.
Oh, he's back, mate. He's back.
Charlie, welcome to the
he's
show,
not.
mate.
See, Charlie, I was hoping that his operation might have stopped this feature, but apparently not, mate.
Charlie.
I'm glad I've come on the show just for this.
I would never go home after dinner, mate. Yeah. I would always stay the night. That's what I'm saying. All right.
Good man.
So things that made me go, this week. I think a little word for Carlo Ancelotti, the first manager in history to win the big 5 leagues. Charlie, where do you stand on Don Carlo?
Love him.
Yeah,
Literally can't get enough of him. I thought he'd done a brilliant job at Chelsea. He's obviously what he'd done at Milan, Madrid, and now going back to Madrid. I thought he was fantastic at Everton. Really took them to new heights, you know. Yeah, he's a brilliant man.
Now, maybe he did do it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, I mean, he was certainly onto something, weren't he? But I think you have to admire Ancelotti, and I think we always get that recency bias with football, and especially even more so now. But Ancelotti was kind of at the helm when I was just getting into football. Milan, all the Champions League. I remember the players they had: Shevchenko, Maldini, Nesta, and I was like, "This is proper football." I remember they had a Champions League final. I think it was 2003 at Old Trafford. I remember watching that as a kid and just like, this is a proper manager.
Well, I remember him smoking on the bench during the 2005 Champions League final.
Classic.
And I was like, that is everything I want from an Italian football manager. Soon, but a ciggy on the go as well. Mike, he also started again this year with his Madrid teams. They've just won the league with 4 games to spare. Whole new centre-back partnership. Basically, the centre-backs that had won them 4 Champions Leagues, Varane and Ramos, gone. Started again a team that everybody said was too old. Just won the title as well. I mean, he's one of the great managers, isn't he?
Yeah, I think it's been helped that Barca are a shambles.
Yeah.
Or have been a shambles up until recently. So, you know, I mean, it really is weird to see, to have a period where it's not Barcelona and Real Madrid are the best 2 teams in Europe and are like duking it out, because there was a long period where those 2 were dominating, and now it's just completely switched, and it's quite surprising to see how the mighty have fallen. But I think it's going to be interesting with Xavi at Barca, especially to see how he can revive the club essentially and see what he can do, because he's obviously got the right idea, but it will take a long time to get the players in, because he's still playing up front with Luke de Jong, who I think was at Newcastle or something. I think he flopped at Newcastle. So if you're flopping at Newcastle and then going to Barcelona, that could be his brother, but I know one of the de Jongs was at Newcastle. So yeah, I mean, Xavi, like one of the best footballing minds ever. I mean, even he's not going to make de Jong into a 25 goal a season striker, is he? So yeah, I mean, hopefully when he gets Barcelona back in shape, they can sort of push Madrid a little bit more. But yeah, fair play to Carlo. He's done a good job. I think he's got a lot of good young players in that team. Mendy, Vinicius Jr., all very exciting to watch, and while still being helped players. It's a good blend, because you got Luka Modric, who's like 37. He's still probably like one of the best midfielders in the world, and you got Karim Benzema, who's suddenly, now Ronaldo's left, is coming into his own. So yeah, it's a really great blend of characters at Real. But yeah, it's good to see the English teams dominating, to be honest, because it's like I think their reign is finally over, Real Madrid and Barca.
So Mike, what's made you go, should we go to the gym and sit in the jacuzzi, baby? Private gym. God. Touch me under the bubbles. Touch daddy under the bubbles.
Oh, mate.
What have you enjoyed this week, mate?
Can I just say before, I thought you literally had an operation on your throat 2 weeks ago. So how is this all healed so quickly? And would your physio be happy if you were doing all this?
Don't tell Tori, my voice therapist, because she's already cross at me for cancelling a couple of follow-up appointments. But I'm meant to be on voice rest for 4 to 6 weeks. But love of the pod, mate. Pod comes first.
You can't be out of the limelight. That's what it is, isn't it? You're like you're watching me, Hannah, and Simon last week, and Joe's like talking his little like Herbert voice from Family Guy, like whistling, wasn't he? He wasn't even talking properly, and he couldn't stand to see Hannah like absolutely smash it as host. I think that's what it is.
Well, it was a very amusing show from Hannah. Some of the key details were wrong because she can't say anything.
I mean,
right.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, in terms of presenting and accuracy, I mean, that went out the window. But in terms of like comedic value, it was absolutely smashing. But yeah, to answer your question, I think the bromance between Jose Mourinho and Brendan Rodgers, that was quite cool. After they played each other in the Europa League, I think did Jose crash his interview, or Brendan crashed the other's interview to say he bought him a really expensive bottle of wine? I don't know. I just would never see them two as friends for some reason. Jose Mourinho and Brendan Rodgers, they couldn't be any more different, could they?
They're
as
both
characters.
they're
Anyway.
both quite egotistical, though, aren't they? So that sort of works.
Yeah, but I guess like 90% of managers are, Joe, aren't they?
Yeah. Well, Brendan seems to have other friends as well, because him and Antonio Conte talked for quite a long time before the Tottenham game, and they were really lolling. Like they're having a great time chatting away to each other. And I thought, how do you possibly know each other well enough to talk?
They probably couldn't understand one another.
Yeah, that's so true.
Antonio was like, I don't know what this Brendan fella's saying.
Yeah, he's got lovely teeth though.
Yeah.
You've got to start with that Everton-Chelsea game. One of my favourite games of the season, just for the pure theatre, everything that went on before. Charlie, do you want to start with Jordan Pickford? Just when you think he's become a joke, a figure of fun, pulls one like that out the bag.
Yeah, I think Jordan Pickford, I've always admired him. He's a brilliant player. He's obviously fantastic at distribution. And it's tough for keepers in poor sides, poor teams like Everton this year, because people just see your wins and losses, how many goals you've conceded, but it does distract from how good of a keeper he is. And he's never let England down. He's brilliant for England. He has been, in the tournaments we've played. He's better than the level that Everton are at. He could easily play in Europe and be a team that are fighting for Europe. But they needed a performance like that, because they're not getting it from anywhere else. Across that whole team, there's no one in there that's grabbing it by the scruff of the neck and going, we need these big performances. We need to get these points, because the fans can't do everything. Their home form has been okay. The away form, terrible. They brought in Lampard to lift it. It hasn't really happened. Richarlison, seemingly he has done it, but sometimes it's not enough. And they brought in, Dele Alli. They brought in what's the guy from United? Yeah, they brought in, and it's not really worked out for him in that sense. So that exactly, and he's obviously hoping that it works back with Ajax now that he's former manager's he has taken the United job. But they needed a big performance, and look to it, none other than England number one, Everton number one, Jordan Pickford, and he got a little bit lucky with the saves, but I love him. He's a character as well. Although he enjoyed it slightly too much. I was like, still 30 minutes in the game yet. Chelsea might score two. So let's just hold. But they need that lift, don't they? Do you know what I mean? It's got to come from somewhere, because that fixture running they've got, it can't be Pickford wonders for 1 week.
Yeah.
It's 5 finals for them. It's a cliche, but it really is, because they are truly in the mud.
And also, Mike, I thought they looked a lot better with Yerry Mina back in the team. Actually having a decent centre-half in there made a massive difference, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's been one of the shambolic pieces of their team. It's been their defence, and obviously Pickford does get a lot of stick, but I'm not sure. I mean, I think he does play very well for England, so obviously there is a great goalkeeper in there somewhere. I just think obviously you would look better in front of a team and a system that's more organised, and England play a very defensive style of football under Gareth Southgate normally, don't they? So obviously 5 defenders in front of you, you're going to look better. You're going to concede less shots, and then it's up to you to make like the wonder saves, and that's what makes a goalkeeper look good. But it was funny because a lot of people were talking about how Jordan Pickford sort of reined it in terms of his celebrations. I mean, that was ridiculous. He was celebrating every save like a goal. And look, I'm not going to be celebration police, because personally, like, Arsenal have got it a lot this season where people have been like, "Oh, your celebrations are over the top." Aaron Ramsdale celebrating in front of Bruno Fernandes when he missed that penalty. It's like, yeah, so what? That's part of the game. Like, you can celebrate moments like that. I was watching a clip of Thierry Henry as well earlier. I can't remember who it was against. It was in the Champions League.
Just because you felt a bit low.
Oh no, it was on TikTok. It just popped up.
They show Henry highlights in the private gym.
Yeah. Oh mate, that sounds like my dream afternoon. But for some reason he absolutely loved it when, I think it was AC Milan missed a penalty or Real Madrid or something. Can't remember the exact game. But yeah, it's like, why would you want to take that passion out of football?
Yeah,
I don't really get it. I don't understand it. It's been levied a lot at Arsenal. I know people don't like Jurgen Klopp for it because he celebrates a lot. But it's just like, when you're passionate about the game, that's just what transpires, doesn't it?
And Charlie, you mentioned the fans earlier. They're pretty amazing. It was more like a Galatasaray game or something before at Goodison Park. Do you enjoy the bloke with the ball up his jumper?
Loved it. I'm all for that. I want more of it. Yeah. I'm saying we don't get enough of this in football.
Yeah.
The guy with the ball. I want the flares as well. I was watching it. I was thinking, we don't do enough flares in the Premier League.
Yeah.
There's an image. I think it's just gone everywhere, hasn't it? With Richarlison holding the flare, and I'm like, that image is like ice cold. It's unreal.
Yeah, it's incredible. And also, I love the childishness as well, because it's kind of, the fans obviously are trying to run down the clock, but because that bloke is obviously still a 10-year-old at heart, he just puts the ball up his jumper.
But Everton are really famous for this, because there was a game a few years back. I don't know if you remember. They in the Premier League, they use like a multi-ball or one-ball system, and Everton were beating Man United 1-0. And at the time, they was playing a multi-ball system. So when a ball goes into the crowd, the ball boy is meant to straight away throw a ball in. So like there's never lost time. And when they were 1-0 up, there were 5 minutes left. They went round to all the ball boys, picked up all the balls and changed to a one-ball system. And then they booted the ball in the crowd into row Z, funnily enough. And it took them ages to get it back. The time ran out and Everton won the game. So they're known for this. Like, this is them all over, and I can't get enough of it.
Mike, we were talking about my dog earlier and your cat too. Did you read about Myra the dog?
No, tell me.
Myra the dog, right? Basically, there was a couple who were walking their dog Myra by Goodison Park before the game. So this is Jasmine Priest and Reese Van Aston Kerrigan. Don't know why you're living down by Stanley Park in Liverpool. So apparently they're not football fans, and they got stuck in the melee of all the fans with the flares and all that sort of thing. And the Everton fans had to help them carry the dog crowd surfing style across the street. And it's a photo of the dog who does just sort of look like Jesus, just being carried like it's really calm. But I mean,
dogs get treated better than the fans and the humans.
But I don't understand how you're living near Goodison Park and you don't know anything about football. Just pick another neighbourhood, because Anfield's only across the park as well.
Yeah, literally. I mean, I can't think of any other cities where there's 2 stadiums that close to each other.
Yeah.
So it's like, why would you? I mean, look, that house has got to be worth some money. So they're probably just sitting on it and thinking, let's just take it, even though we absolutely hate the football, and keep it.
Mate, I don't know if you've ever been away to Goodison. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah, you know what? I was thinking that, but I didn't really want to diss Liverpool.
You didn't want to say it, did you?
I didn't want to say it.
You fold it. Me and Joe were like, yeah. That's why they've not sold it.
Yeah, put that in right move. Fucking hell.
It's got to be worth something though, right next to the stadium.
Yeah, something. Yeah.
Packet Chris. Yeah.
Ooh, now you've taken it too far.
Yeah.
So they've got a game in hand on Leeds. Leeds are 2 points above them, aren't they? Everton's still in the relegation zone, but they've got a game in hand on Leeds. Charlie, do you think that Everton will do it? Do you think they'll stay up?
I really don't know. This is a tough one, and there's been a lot of chat. I don't know if you two agree. In the last few weeks, it's been like Burnley, Everton. Sean Dyche has been let go, and we've kind of like forgotten Leeds. And when I looked at the table, like you just said, and I saw Leeds, and I thought, Leeds are really, truly in this as well. They've changed manager, and he seems like a really likable guy. That is it Marsh, Jesse Marsh?
Yeah.
I don't know. They're really in the mix as well, and I can't call it for those 3. Everton do have a real tough set of fixtures, but Leeds are down there as well. They've got Arsenal on the weekend, so not another easy fixture. Them away at Emirates, so it's tough.
Norwich have been relegated in each of their last 4 Premier League seasons in which they featured in the division. They've now been relegated 6 times from the Premier League in total. Mike, are they potentially the most pointless team to be in the Premier League ever?
Yeah, I mean, they're just happy to do that, aren't they? They're a yo-yo club and they'll never change. And I think the owners are happy with that, because just based on how it works and the parachute payments when you do get promoted, I mean, they're happy to run the club that way. But it's frustrating for football fans in general, because it's like very similar with Fulham. Yeah. And like they go up and then come down the exact same season. Even that season when they got promoted to the Premier League, and they spent like over 100 million on their squad, and they still got relegated. So of course it is difficult, but I just think you have to adapt your style and play to your strengths. Like, I think if you do get promoted from the Championship with a particular squad, it's worth keeping that squad together. Like what Leeds did when they first came up with Bielsa. They had their style of football and they had their personnel, and they didn't really change it. And I think that saved them. Obviously, the fires sort of burnt out a little bit with them. And I'm not really sold on Jesse Marsh at all. But I don't know. As a football fan, as a Premier League fan, I do get frustrated with these teams that are just happy to yo-yo like that.
Well, now they're going to potentially be stuck in the Championship with no Bielsa. as well. But the thing about Norwich is I just think, like, what's in it for the fans? Friend of the show, Don Betts, said that it was better for Fulham to be in the Championship because it's more fun as a fan. And I agree. I don't want to, like, I've got a mate who's a Fulham fan. He said it's much better because you don't lose every week. That's just rubbish. Right, let's move on to Spurs. Thinking of things that made you go, God almighty.
Not really.
Charlie, how did you feel about Son's left-footed curler? Oh,
yeah, it was very. He's a special player, isn't he? He's a very, very special player. There's no doubt about it. He's one Tottenham player. I watch him and I'm like, superstar, absolute superstar. And and it's quite interesting with him really because Kane gets. I know they both get all the love, but Kane is seen as the main man, and he's another like unbelievable talent. But I don't know, he might pip him for me a little bit. I think he's really the man that I think they'd be in trouble if they lost him.
Yeah, he's a very exciting footballer to watch.
100%.
It's that pace, it's the both-footedness. I think he's the most both-footed player. I mean, apart from your, I don't know, Ronaldinho's or whatever, the most both-footed player that I've seen where you genuinely, because there's a stat here that I've got that says he scored the most goals this season with his weaker foot. And it's like, well, I don't really consider him to have a weaker foot in particular.
I think that's, Joe, to sort of emphasise your point, I think that's why he's so good because it's seamless. No one really knows. There's no like, oh, that's his stronger foot. This is what I think. It's just also effortless. It comes very natural to him. And soon the moment he's got it, and that's the thing. If Tottenham are, so it's a tough game, they're losing or they're drawing. You need these are the players that separate, those sides in and around there. It's those one moment, one player, and the game's changed.
So across the last 16 games in the Premier League, Tottenham have either scored multiple goals or no goals. So 11 times they've scored more than once, and 5 times they failed to score altogether. The form is so patchy. Like, we've got to go to Anfield this weekend. Mike, are you still putting Arsenal in the driver's seat or the passenger side or whatever we'd agreed that metaphor was last week to finish in the top 4?
Mate, I honestly don't know. It changes from week to week, doesn't it? I mean, I don't think Spurs will get a result, but you could envisage a situation where, Antonio Conte plays a back 8 and leaves Kane and Son up front, and they hit him with a lucky counter-attack. I mean, you can see it happening. So I just think in this league, you can't rule anything out. But you'd have to say if Liverpool do get a result and win as expected, and then Arsenal beat Leeds, obviously it builds up a 5-point gap, and that makes the North London derby, a lot less pressurized for Arsenal because you could almost go and lose that game and still get top 4. So I think this game against Liverpool is huge. I think if Spurs want to get top 4, they need to get a result, at least a draw.
What are we going to do about talking to each other next week, mate? If it's still on, right, and it's still, what are we going to do about, because we probably won't be able to talk, will we, for like the day of the game?
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
There's going to be too much tension.
I'm probably going to have to block you, mate. I'm not going to lie. Because I don't...
Excuse.
I mean, what I do, because I'm like admin in my group with my old schoolmates, I actually kick my Spurs mate out of the group. But probably about a day before the fixture, because there's all that tension, there's all that hatred, and we sort of agree like, oh yeah, we're gonna be see you next Tuesdays to each other for the next 48 hours, but we don't mean it like actually you're all right sort of thing. But in that moment, like, I don't think you can hate anything or anyone more than the Spurs fan, or as a Spurs fan, an Arsenal fan. It literally is the most disgusting rivalry, like bitter.
Charlie, do you have any friends who are Tottenham fans?
Loads. Absolutely bundles, yeah.
We'll get them on
it's quite... Yeah, it's quite a big mix. I don't know why that is. Maybe it's because I'm so sort of, I'm 2 minutes from the stadium, Arsenal that is, and I know loads of Tottenham fans, loads of Arsenal fans, and it's funny because I despise Tottenham. I hope they lose every week, but I don't have the same thing as Mike. I feel no like bad way about their fans. I sort of want them to do well, but I want the team to do utterly awful. But I get on with the fans.
It depends what your mates are like, because I grew up in the era of like the Invincibles and stuff, and my mates were the biggest pricks. There's like 90% of them are Arsenal fans, and they were just insufferable bellends the entire time. The same with also, and obviously the other good team then were United fans. So I grew up with loads of Cockney Reds. So I hate Arsenal, I hate United. It's just, and that's not because of the teams. That's because of my long-term personal friend.
Yeah.
Do you not hate Chelsea then? Because I know there's a massive thing between Spurs and Chelsea, and a few months ago when all the takeover stuff was coming out, and they were saying Chelsea might go into liquidation. Like Chelsea fans were sort of saying, "Oh, like it's disgusting, you people. Like, how can you enjoy this? Blah blah." It's like, mate, like you're our bitter rivals. Why would we not enjoy the prospect of Chelsea Football Club going under? I mean, that's never gonna happen again, is it? It's not gonna happen to any other team probably for a long, long time.
And also, in my personal opinion, their fans can be quite unpleasant, racist thugs. So, like, it's not a lot to like.
And there's that.
You know what I mean? Not that likeable. Right, let's move on to Arsenal. Won 3 consecutive Premier League games, with each coming against opponents who started the day in the top 7. It's going pretty well, isn't it, Charlie?
Yeah, it is if you mention it like that. But, I'm quick to remember that we lost to Southampton, Palace and Brighton on the bounce as well. So it can change in an instant, really. And I think the key is, and I think maybe for Tottenham as well, Joe, you might agree, not to get too high and not to get too low, because I can't even celebrate. I know there might be another slip up, because it would be so Arsenal to beat Chelsea, Man United and West Ham and then get done by Leeds at home if like Tottenham didn't get a result. And that's why even now, I'm not even I've not even texted no Spurs mates. They're not even texting me. And I feel there's so much tension in the air, because no one wants to do that sort of pre-celebration, really. Like, oh, we've done it 5 points in front. Because everyone, until it's sealed, until it is, then I'm going to be a nightmare. I'm literally going to be a nightmare. But until it's confirmed, I've got I'm doing this thing. It's like reverse psychology. I'm like, oh, Tottenham will definitely beat them. Oh, no, Leeds, they've been fantastic under that new American. They're fantastic. They'll be in the Champions League soon. Yeah. I have to sort of reverse psychology so the low, is not as bad.
I have been having like a little sort of daydream fantasy to myself where I've been thinking about, well, I was about to say I've been thinking about Mike.
But, it's that bad, is it?
Oh, mate, you should see him now. He's been at that new gym.
Private.
But,
very exclusive.
But, right, I keep thinking, like, it gives us a whole season of the podcast next year where every time he talks about Arsenal in the Europa League, I can just be like, no one cares, mate. No one watches football on a Thursday night. Just give it all of that. And then if it's the other way round, I don't know what I'm going to do. I really don't. Look at his face. Look at his face. As if he would do exactly the same thing.
What I was thinking about? My mind went all the way back to 2012 when Spurs finished 4th.
Yeah, I remember.
And Chelsea won the Champions League. And I think that's one of my happiest moments of my life. Honestly, like it sounds really like sad, but it was, because they had the hope and it just got taken away. And I had a mini panic as well, like a few weeks ago, because Arsenal were in the driving seat and it was like, oh my God, what if West Ham win the Europa League? Does that mean? And I realized I've calmed myself down and I was like, okay, there's 5 Champions League places for English clubs. But no, Charlie, you're 100% right, mate, because after Spurs lost to Brighton, I was thinking, should I text my mates now? Like saying, you absolute tossers sort of thing. Yeah. And then we went and lost to Southampton. So, it is one of them situations where you can't get carried away. And even if Arsenal do go 5 points clear, I'm still not confident that we're going to do it. It's just one of them things, isn't it? That
it is.
You can't count your chickens.
Yeah, and Sky massively want it to be that way. They waited to sort of rearrange this date. They want to do the big build up. It all matters about the broadcasters, but it's so tough. I mean, even if Spurs get a point on Saturday and then only Arsenal get a point, there's many more slip ups, and I think that's maybe why, to Joe, your earlier question, why I didn't really go as mad over that Chelsea United West Ham sort of 9-pointer, because that stain from Southampton was such a bitter taste in my mouth. Because I remember it. Spurs, it was the early kickoff. They lost to Brighton. I was like, this is fantastic. I was like, we've just lost to Crystal Palace. Arteta would have got them up. They'd be fuming. They want to bounce back. And then we lost. I was like, well, that's just, we've just thrown it away. We're our own worst enemy. And I think putting the Arsenal-Spurs rivalry aside, I think maybe Spurs fans and Arsenal fans is something that they can actually unite together and agree, is that we're our own worst enemy. Spurs shoot themselves in the foot, and then Arsenal will go and do it. And it pains me to say it, but maybe it was looking like at one point someone was going to win this sort of who gets 4th contest by default. Yeah. Which isn't, I don't know if that's a great thing. I mean, we're going to take it, but yeah.
Who's the least bad? basically.
Yeah, which I don't know if there's anything to celebrate in that, so we can share that. But listen, someone has to get it. Someone has to be the best of the rest. And I actually think this is a little bit ahead of where Arsenal thought they would be in this year under Arteta, especially with that start and how everyone was slating the recruitment. I think this would be a massive achievement, and everyone will say, "Oh, yeah, but you're Arsenal, you should be there." But football, there's no given right. We're seeing it with Everton. You know, you would say that a club of that stature should not be maybe go into Barnsley next year, but they might be.
It'd be an overachievement. I think it actually would. Ian Wright said this, and he got loads of stick. He was like, "It'd be an overachievement." It would be, because based on they've got the youngest average squad in the Premier League, and 100%. They spent 130 million on, or 160 million, whatever it was, on players that weren't marquee players. So if anything, that's why I think like reservations come from. It's just like, oh, this team shouldn't actually be there. They shouldn't be challenging. And because obviously everyone thought United were going to be much better than they were. And it's funny because up until a few weeks ago, I was saying United are going to get it. But because we just kept thinking, surely that team's got to click. Surely at some point, they've got to get dragged through. But they just haven't. And yeah, I mean, all the better for us, because it's good to see United do rubbish, isn't it? Really.
So Charlie, where do you stand on Arteta and the process?
I'm very pro Arteta, but I was actually in a minority because I was very pro Arsene Wenger. I'm not a massive fan of managers being sacked. I think that a lot of managers aren't given enough time. Football today is all about instant results. I hate cliches, trust the process and all this, but sometimes you have to say those cliches because it's true. And I think with the Arteta job, if you were to sort of use it in everyday terms, no one would get a job of a massive corporation, let's say like Apple, Facebook, whoever, Adidas, Nike, who's got no experience. Arteta has no managerial experience. Arsenal, that was a bold move. Yeah, he's a celebrated coach. He worked under Pep. But there's no rhyme or reason to say he's going to be a brilliant manager and it's going to work out. And I think maybe Man United, in a little bit, need to follow that model, because I think Arsenal fans were focused on, let's go back to Champions League, let's go back to Invincibles, let's go back to titles, winning trophies. It's 20 years ago, and 1 year is decades in football, so 20 years is miles away. And I think before the results on the pitch, the first thing he had to do was change the culture, change the people that worked in the club, make it a community feel, unite the fan base, which he's clearly done. And that takes a little bit of time. And we're seeing this at United. Players don't want to play for the shirt. We're seeing players get let go. And I think before they even concentrate, this summer, the first thing I'd say to Ten Hag is, don't worry about that. If you qualify for Europe or you have a good cut run, fantastic. I know that's crazy because we're Man United, but we've got to just get everyone going in one direction, no process, players wanting to play for this club, identifying what we want to go for Arsenal. It was young. We're seeing this young side, all of their signings under 24, a good British core. And that's what we need to do. And I think Arteta, for want of a better word, in trusting the process, has done that. So I'm all aboard that. And if now we do get this top four, I think it's brilliant. And I certainly hate, as soon as we see Southampton, Palace, Brighton, oh, he's the worst manager in the world. He's got no experience. He's Pep's water boy. And it's like, well, now we've won 3, and it's like, 0. There's no noise. It's radio silence. And there's going to be obvious bumps in the road to a team that had lost their first 3, have a really thin squad. Actually, my biggest worry of Arsenal is, had we have been in Europe this year, we probably wouldn't have been in this top 4 thing. We've only played 40 games. West Ham played their 60th game on Sunday. That was our 40th. So there's a lot to be said for Arsenal and that depth next year. But I just think that we've got the manager now who's on a wavelength with the fans. We're going to invest. Towards the end, I know people didn't like Wenger. He never got that money to invest. And I think you're seeing that actually, Joe, with Spurs now, because that paying off for the stadium will last for ages. And that is probably what's holding them back a little bit. And I do believe that we have to trust in these people that know more than us, the fans. I mean, if we go back to August, people said that Arsenal had the 20th, the lowest recruitment out of all the summer clubs. They were voted last. Now people are saying Ramsdale for England, Ben White's got a call up, and now people are saying, oh, they've done some pretty good business in the summer. It was like, well, hang on. we lost our first 3 games, and Gary Neville made out like Ben White was a League 2 defender. So you have to take everything with a pinch of salt.
Do you feel like it feels like an important moment for Arsenal, though, right? Because for Spurs, it is an important moment because it's like that top 4 brings in extra Champions League money. You can attract different players. Means Conte and Kane will likely stay. We kind of hope. Does it feel like just as important a moment for Arsenal?
I think it does, and maybe I'll be ostracised for saying this, but just because maybe that fan involvement can turn, because I've already seen it, Joe. When we lost that 3 games, people like, they shouldn't have let Aubameyang go. Now we're not scoring goals. Who's there to score goals? And it was already that turning. So and we don't want to we don't want to undo the good work that we've done. And listen, I would love to get Champions League football. I would love to face Panathinaikos and go out in the last 16 again. I'm all for it. But Europa League, as Mike said, if we still go back to European football, it's an influx of money, not as much. And that would be good if we got that. So if we get Champions League, I'm over the moon. But I think you know, Rome weren't built in a day. And I think that's ultimately what Man United have to do, because we were never going to be straight away, bring the new manager and contender with Liverpool, Man City. And that's why you saw Moyes struggled at United. He didn't do it. Now he's doing wonders at West Ham. You know, LVG didn't do it. It takes a little bit of time. And I think Arsenal, Spurs and Man United are in that a little bit. And I remember Pochettino, when he left, he said, Spurs need to be Spurs 2.0. We need a massive rebuild. And Levy went, no chance. I think if Pochettino would have been backed, he'd still be there now.
Yeah, well,
I really believe that.
100% agree with that.
And I'm not a Spurs fan, and I think, you know, my hope is that they don't back Conte in the summer or he walks, because he needs to be backed. Because if he doesn't and he has that again next year, again, like I said earlier, Tottenham have only got themselves to blame.
I don't think he will. Honestly, like I'm looking at the situation now, and there was stories the other day that that Conte's been linked with PSG. And, you know, I think when he was asked about it, he was sort of like, you know, I'm going to assess my options in the summer. And it's like, oh, you don't really want to be hearing that as a fan, do you? Really, that your manager's saying stuff like that. And obviously, after they lost to Burnley as well, he was throwing his toys at the pram. So this is Antonio Conte. He's got history of sort of, you know, leaving whenever he wants to. So I think if Daniel Levy doesn't propose, like, you know, a bit of an overhaul, it's gonna be curtains for him. Honestly, I do.
Yeah.
Kane will stay probably because his move's gone now. Son's not really gonna go. He doesn't really get linked with a move away, does he? So I don't even have to worry about losing players. It's just who you'll sign.
Yeah, and I think the Champions League just gives us a better chance of Conte staying and attracting those better players. Speaking of a new signing, Rob Holding is sporting something of a new signing himself. In the post-match interview, obviously after he scored at the weekend, he was speaking on Sky Sports. He said, I've scored a few Carabao Cup goals, but it's nice to get my first Premier League goal. Hopefully I can build on that and get some more. While Aaron Ramsdale, who stood next to him, pointed out it's only taken 6 years and a new hairline. What do you think of his new thatch, Mike? It's pretty full on, isn't it?
I mean, mate, like, yeah, his surgeon has done a smashing job. I don't know where he went. Maybe he went to my gym. They got like specialists there as well doing hair transplant. That's why I signed up, mate.
That's what you're doing. I mean, get a little bit off your beard. Rob Holding glues it to his head.
Yeah. To be fair, I don't really think Ramsdale should be the one talking about that, because he's got a bit of a situation where he's got the wispy fringe hovering. Like, so, you know what, Aaron, I want to see what's underneath, like, before you start talking about your mate's hairline.
If I can see
Mike
the sunlight,
throwing shots.
Yeah, if I can see the sunlight coming off your head.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting with that. It was weird that, though, Holding, because he got semi-embarrassed by it. And I think, Rob, come on, you've not paid 10 grand to be embarrassed by it. You should be like, exactly, get this on.
Yeah.
Like, straight away, show it. I thought, you've not done it to then be like, back, like, oh, no. Like,
he's been in training with the red dots on his head from all the picking.
We've all seen the photos, but they've all done it over Arsenal. Gabriel's done it as well, ain't he? They've all had the little...
Yeah, Gabriel's had a bit of a... bit of a move, isn't he?
It is. It's quite special. Pearly whites and a new hairline. I'm all for it.
Does wonders.
This is what the players need to get fourth. Let's do it.
It's probably a bulk discount, isn't it? If you keep sending all your mates down. Charlie, would you have any work done?
What a question.
Yeah, would I have any work done?
You don't need it, but...
Thank you, mate. That is why I hesitated. I thought I'll let you get that in there. I don't know. Maybe. I think I did an interview a couple of years back, and it was like all about League Two, and so many of the strikers wouldn't do the media after the games until they'd sorted their hair out, and and I spoke to one of the guys, and he said, yeah, and he said, oh, he said it's a big thing, receding hairlines, like I won't do no media, and I was like, I never even realised that this was a thing, and maybe in 5 years, it could. I'm hoping it could be 5 months. Who knows? But it might be a thing, Joe. So we'll have to revisit it, and then I might be like new pearly whites, tattoo, hairline down to here.
Well, my mate said that. So I look quite different when I've not done my hair, because my hair like naturally is kind of very like flat and straight, so it just like falls down over my head. And my mate said when you like bump into me in the high street when I've not done my hair, I look like Pauline Quirk. And if you don't have that reference, that's I can't remember the name of the character. She was in Birds of a Feather, so I'll stick that theme tune and a picture underneath. There you go, Mike. That's another Instagram hit for us. Right, just one final thing. A pub owner has advertised a job listing where he's banned applicants with bad personal hygiene or what he calls dodgy looking toes. You seen Hannah's toes, by the way, Mike?
Nah, I mean, do I want to?
Like little fingers, like little chimp fingers. Proper weird. Hi, Anna. But Charlie, are there any like personal hygiene no-nos for you?
Well, yeah, be clean, wash. But but nothing that stands out as like real OCD. I'm a little bit OCD though about punctuality. If someone's like late, I'm like, well, I can't talk to you for a minute.
Really?
Yeah, and this really winds up my friends. Literally, I'm never late. I'm never on time, and I'm always early for everything. And it's sort of like I got a bit funny if people are like super late.
What if your girlfriend was late if you're meeting for dinner?
Oh yeah, Joe. I run a tight ship. Everyone, mate. It's not just friends. It's family. Anyone can get it. The other week, I met my friend for a coffee. He said 1 o'clock. I was like, perfect. I got there at 10 to 1. He turned up at 1:30.
That's late.
Nah, that's unacceptable.
Yeah, I was, and he laughed when he got there, knowing how I was. And honestly, I nearly didn't make this podcast. We were nearly throwing hands. It got to that point. But yeah, so that's my only weird OCD thing.
Mike, what about you? Is there any like personal hygiene things that bug you? It's a safe space.
Yeah, you know what? People on public transport, they are just grim. I saw a video the other day, and on the aeroplane, you get that little side bit where there's a gap in between. Some bloke had put his crusty toes between that gap, and so it was coming onto this guy's seat.
No, that's not acceptable.
And I was like, mate, like that is just, and you see it all the time on the tube when people have like sandals. No, not sandals, shoes. They take the shoes off and put their bare nasty feet on top of the shoes. Because they're hot or something. I don't know. I just think that is grim. Like, just put them away. No one needs to see that. And they're always nasty feet as well. It's never like I don't think you can get good looking feet, but these are not good looking by any stretch. Mm-hmm. It's just disgusting.
Can I ask you a question? If that was a sexy woman who did that, would you mind? Because I don't think
absolutely not. But
yeah,
I mean,
I don't think I would either.
Yeah, I mean, the chances of that happening is very low.
Yes, if that's like, I don't know, if that's if that's Wayne Rooney who does that, it's a no. But if it's like, I was going to say Amber Heard, it's because I've been reading a lot of Johnny Depp stuff, so I'd probably leave her out of it. If that's like Margot Robbie who gets her feet out on the district line, go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably not complaining about that at all.
So I've got an office, right? And like we share it, like there's a few people who share this office. And one of the blokes who never speaks to anyone, right, never says anything, I think he works in like computer games or something, he farts. But like proper, like cocks his leg, like, which is obviously quite funny because farts are funny. But then it's like, then you'll have a moment of be like, oh, that's so inappropriate. He just doesn't care.
Does he acknowledge at least that, yes, I've just done this?
No, because if he turned around and like smiled like it was for the group, I'd sort of get it. But he just does it. Doesn't even turn around from his desk.
No.
What would you think if you were meeting someone, not necessarily a date, but you were meeting like friends and they brought some of their friends along and they just farted in front of you for the first time? Because this happened to me very recently and I didn't really know how to react. Because this is like, oh yeah, do you react? Because it wasn't a particularly like funny one either. It was just a bit of God, I'm not putting this out on social media because they'll definitely see it. But yeah, it was just one of them ones where it was like, oh mate, I don't really know what to do with this right now.
Did they acknowledge it?
Yeah, they acknowledged it, but it almost like you don't really want to laugh along because it's like, oh, I'm actually quite offended by this. And if I laugh along, it's like I'm condoning it. Do you know what I mean?
I think I would have
like this behavior is not acceptable when you just met someone.
But I don't know what to do because if this guy's so brazen about farting, I don't think I can go, do you mind? Because he doesn't. So
yeah,
what do I do?
Doesn't.
But
you have to be like, did you just fart, mate?
Yeah.
Like, what's happening here?
But I don't want to be a snitch and tell Kristen on reception, like, Mitch keeps farting. I don't know.
Oh, mate, I thought you was going to ask him, not just go downstairs to reception, go, there's someone farting on floor 7. Like, can you, what office? My office, because you can't have a word with them.
And then I'll come back and they'll come back with me. So it'll be obvious it's me.
Yeah.
You can just be sly about it and just put like a candle or like a humidifier on his desk or something and just like plonk it down and just be like, yeah, that's for you, mate.
Or some of that poo
maybe
pourri.
he might get the hint.
You know that stuff that you put in the toilet before you go to the loo to stop it smelling?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. You have to...
Or just stuff that up his...
up his bum.
that might stop it. That might cause a blockage, but it will definitely stop.
Oh, well, I think that's probably quite a good place to leave it. Look, if you want to get in touch with us, you've got any advice on how to deal with any of the issues raised in today's programme, it's Rosehead Pod on social media. Right, we're going to be back with you next week, and we've got loads of special stuff planned as well for the end of the season. Charlie, thank you very much, mate.
Oh, thank you for having me, guys. I've loved it.
Is there anything you want to plug, any social media or stuff where people can follow you?
Not me as such. I'm not on social media
because
I'm a ghost, mate, as Mike knows. But if you got to follow anyone, follow this pod and listen.
Thanks, mate.
That's what I think.
Thank you very much, mate, for coming on. I've absolutely loved it. Thank you very much, Mike.
Cheers, Joe.
And we'll see you next week.